Well, welcome back to our next series of building your Excel intake sheet. And did you want to add to that? Or?
So what we're going to be doing in this, and we're using an intake spreadsheet here. So if you're starting with a blank, then you're going to be building all the columns. And a logical place to start is what you do at your job. What do you do in the process of doing from start to finish in your job? So if your agency takes care of investigations, a logical place to start would be a report or referral comes in on a child. So that report or referral has to have the date that it came in, who did it come from, child's name, first and last name. For demographic purposes, it can have date of birth and gender. If you want to just do a quick look at age, then you can look at that, and so on and so forth. So to get your mind set in, okay, what data do I really need? Now, if you're building a spreadsheet for a different purpose, like let's say you're in a different set of services, you think exactly the same way. What do I do at the beginning of my job? What happens all the way through to the end, and start thinking of columns that way.
Mm-hmm. What are some other things that people would consider?
Well, there's also general assistance. Some agencies do general assistance where they're giving financial help to adults that are unable to work or can't find a job. So just depending on what you're building is where you need to start at the beginning and follow through. Also keep in mind of what, other than just like if you're building an intake spreadsheet and you want your BIA data, think about grant management. If you have to report to grants on specific data that you're collecting, or let's say to your leadership. It could be tribal council or your supervisors or their supervisors. Just keep in mind all the data that you need to collect. So that's how we'll get started and kind of get the ball rolling to get you in that mindset to continue on your own.
Sounds really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Great.
See you.
Hello, this is Cheryl Montoya with the Capacity Building Center for Tribes. Today we're going to talk about how to build an intake spreadsheet. So what I have on the screen right now is a brand new spreadsheet, blank spreadsheet you would open up in Excel. Notice all the columns. That's what we're going to be working on today, is to fill in these columns. So the first thing you want to think about when you want to build an intake spreadsheet, or any spreadsheet for that matter, is what data you want to collect. So in thinking about an intake, you may want to put in the date that an intake was received. And you can pull this column out and make it bigger. Or you can do like a wrap text feature to give yourself plenty of space on here to put columns in. And you just do that very quickly. I'll show you. If you have the 2018 version of Excel, you can just go right up here in this box in alignment and wrap text. And we'll just pull this down a little bit and make this column smaller, and you'll see date received. If you don't have a newer version, what you'll do is you can highlight the column and right mouse click and go to Format Cells and click Wrap Text right here and click OK. So in continuing, thinking about the process for building an intake spreadsheet, we've got date received. You might want to put the method it was received. So that could be phone, in person, through the office, field visit. So this would be a good candidate for a drop-down list where you can look at another micro-learning video and learn how to do that. We could put in child name, and we will make this column a little bit bigger so you have plenty of room to type. Child's date of birth. Let's put in age, just so at a glance you can see what the age of the child is. Also, we would want to know gender of the child, if that's known. Right here, we could put abuse, neglect type. And this would be another good one that would be a good candidate for a drop-down list. So in looking at that, this could be part of what you're writing down on a form, and we're going to put it in the spreadsheet so you can get that data put in for each month. So we've got date received. So once the intake is accepted, so let's say intake accepted. Oops, can't type today. Intake accepted, that could be yes or no here. And remember, if we wanted to wrap the text, we can put it there. Intake accepted, this could be a yes or no, so another drop down. If it's a no, we'd want to know what the screen out reason was. There could be several different reasons that you could put in there. And if it is accepted, who is it assigned to? And your worker initials could go in here, and so on and so on, just going through the process. So this is basically getting your columns ready to input the data. The other thing is, how do you want to do this? So see, we have it on sheet 1 here. Let's say that we just want to do a monthly gathering. So here we would just click down here and right mouse click and rename, and we'll just put January 2018. And let's say we want to do another month. We'll name that February. Let's go back to January 2018. We're going to highlight the row and copy it and put it over into February. Okay. So this gets you started on how to do your intake spreadsheet. This can be, the sky's the limit on these columns. You can take it all the way through investigation, if the child was removed, what kind of placement they're in, which placement providers they're placed with, what the dates of the placement are, all the way if you have grant information that you have to collect here, BIA information. This is 4B information. The sky's the limit on this column. Now, of course, you've got unlimited columns you can use. So just go in, start playing around with it, have good conversations about what data you want to what data you want to put in, and you should be good to go. Be sure and check out our other microlearning videos on how to put in a drop-down list. There's some great ones on how to build formulas so it can start counting your data automatically instead of you doing hand counting. All right, talk to you again soon.
So what is your takeaways from this last video?
Well, I learned a lot, so it was really interesting, the different things that's possible, and I appreciated having the tool to work with as you were sharing. So thank you.
I think that really covered a lot of the basic, your basic reporting data. But there's a lot more you could add too, isn't there?
There's a couple of things that occur to me. One is that particularly if a tribe is beginning services at the point of investigation, there's an option in there for the specific tribal codes and the way the orders, the milestones of the orders, the temporary placement order that's the beginning of investigation allows the investigation to occur, but usually in every code, there's a 5-day, 10-day period that's lawful, legal, and binding in order to get, so you have the option to give yourself, it's like a tickler file, eh? And the other place that I see a tribal option is in the demographic information. The family associations can be identified for each child so that a tribe can look at the intake sheet and know where that child belongs in the community.
Yeah, that reminds me of one tribe I was working with. They have the main tribe, but then they have several communities around,
Right.
and so they did add that that column in there to identify which community the child's from.
Sure.
So that was a good point.
That helps with geographic
Gotcha.
analysis too.
GISing.
Yeah, good.
that's right.
Because a lot of tribes now are doing GIS analysis, so it's really important to have that location data.
All right, well,
Well, sounds good. I'm ready for the next video. I hope you are too. Thanks.